Hi everyone, welcome to this elemental estimate video on plumbing specifically. So what we're going to look at today is basically just the principles surrounding how to measure your plumbing work. So as always, you usually start with your, not usually, you always start with your guide to elemental estimation and to get the template of what you need to use whenever you do your measurement. So the first thing that you need to do is to go to your elemental estimation and go to your estimate, and I've opened it up here at plumbing. So you would see that it also refers to the following items, which is mostly your external works. So what you do is you go again systematically through your guidelines. So your first item that you've got is item 112. So let's put in our item 112. It's already put in with sanitary fittings, and then you put in the specific sanitary fittings that you've got in your new building that you're measuring. So obviously you would add a little bit more detail in here. So if it's maybe a double bowl sink, let's take for instance the BOQ that I want to show you guys where I get the rates from. So this is the civil workshop that I used in the previous project. This is now just a section that I measured, so it's a little bit easier to keep track of than the electrical BOQ, which is done by the electrical engineers. So in this specific project we had different sections. So we had two buildings, the civil workshop and the administration building, and here's the electrical work that tallied up to the total. So let's look at our plumbing. Our plumbing was bill number 13, and it was for 113,000 Rand on this particular project. So I'm just going to scroll to that section. This was actually the payment certificates that was developed from that. So let's just go to bill 13 so that we can start with that. So you would see the plumbing bill is quite a comprehensive bill. So it usually includes quite a lot of items, and you need to sift a little bit through that. So what you would see here, for instance, is rainwater goods is measured here. This is all your gutters and so on. I see in this particular project it was left out, so we measured it, but it was left out in the end. Not a big saving that we had. We had about a 8,000 Rand saving on this particular building. Okay, then you would see your soil drainage, which is your sewer, basically your sewer installation. So it usually starts with your bulk items, and then you have your installation to your building that you've got here. Then you've got your installation in your building. So this is the pipe works, etc. That's installed in the building, in the ground. So this whole section here is the external works of your plumbing. So whenever you do use the rates, please just make sure that when you for instance, if you do use the entire plumbing schedule, that you do not include it here underneath 112 and also in 603 for all your external works, where that installation is also included. So just make sure that you familiarize yourself with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out the particular sections for the applicable sections. Okay, so you would see that we've got manholes and so forth, and then after that we start with our sanitary fittings. So everything up to here before sanitary fittings is basically our external works. Let's just do it. Our soil drainage. We'll get to water supplies now, which is also includes your external works. And like I said, I'm not going to be too strict on you actually interpreting the BOQs accurately enough. Again, the QSs take about 3 years to develop a proper BOQ and 1 year to do a proper elemental estimate. So I'm gonna use that discretion whenever I do mark your elemental estimations. Okay, so let's start with our sanitary fittings. So let's see, we've got our flush pans, which is our VC pans or our toilets. So our first item here, let's take it as if our new project actually has this specific VC that's going to be installed in our new project. So what we do is we measure our item and we do a description. Usually on at elemental stage we don't have a lot of information yet, so it might be something in the range of a gibbered pan that's going to be used or so, or a standard fitting, but it doesn't necessarily give you an entire spec. So you can basically write in here standard porcelain VC or whatever is needed. Okay, so if I've installed that item, and this is quite easy because what you basically do is you take the item from your BOQ, and we've got a specific rate, and we can actually put this in our rate build-up. So I'm just going to put that in our rate build-up. So sorry, here's our rate. Okay, so that looks better. So let's say Gibberit VC. Okay, and then you might want to add some escalation to this. This project was done about 2 years ago, so let's say escalated rate, and then we've got our rate of 8,000 times, and let's make it compounded. So it's our rate times 106 divided by 100. We're escalating it with 106 6% per year, and then we just escalate it again for 2 years. Okay, to get to our escalated rate. So you can use your escalated rate in your item here. Okay, and then obviously you need to measure the amount that's actually used. Okay, just a note, when I saw this is a big part of your elemental estimation is presentation. So it's always good to have your numbers, your units all the same, everything aligned nicely and so on. It just gives a much better impression whenever you do present it to a client. And also obviously it will help a little bit with your marks as well if it's presentable. Okay, so let's keep it at 4 of them measured. So let's just put our rate in. So I'm just going to take it from there. Okay, and so we got our new installation rate there. Okay, so then you do that, do the same with all of your other items. So we've got our VC pans, we've got our hand wash basins, we've got our sinks, etc. So another option would be is to just take your description here and put it in here. Obviously you can use your discretion on how much detail you want to actually include here, depending on how much detail is available. Okay, so your sanitary fittings is quite easy to do. It's straightforward. So we've got specific items, specific units, and so on. Here you see your toilet roll holders. You will see later on in your description is sanitary fittings pods. These include your bathroom, toilets, showers, room pods, complete includes structural framework, etc., etc. So just make sure that you look at what all of these items are that's included in the description that should be included in your rate build-up. So let's quickly have a look at our BOQ. So our toilet roll holders will be a little bit later on. Oh, sorry, I'm switching in to the wrong one. So steam engines, geysers, boilers, grey water fittings, auxiliaries. I'm looking for auxiliaries quickly. Sanitary fittings. Okay, here we go. Okay, sorry, here it's sanitary fittings. So you would have any sanitary fittings like soap, dishes, toilet paper holder, mirrors, etc. that you basically put in here. So I've included sanitary fittings should go in here, and then I'm just gonna put in our toilet roll holders, towel rails, and then we've got joinery fittings, etc. also included there. So it's just going through it systematically and getting rates like that. Also, what you can do is, again, you can get installation or supplier costs, and then you can add a markup on it. A good guideline is usually 1.8 timesing a item, for instance, that you get at builders, is to times it with 1.8 to get to an installation rate, and then you would add it here. So let's see, soap, dishes, and I'm just going to take a shortcut here to save time on the video, and let's say we measure 2, and we're just going to take this rate that we've got here is 1,800. No, that's a little bit much for a toilet roll holder. Okay, still quite expensive, this one that we used, and then we put in our rate. Okay, and obviously I didn't escalate that, so it depends on what type of system you're using. So you might bring it over to your rate build-up again, escalate that, or if you see that there's 1 or 2 items that actually has to be added to that, then you can actually get that. Okay, so let's do this, and then you go through it systematically. Then the next item that we need to look at is our plumbing. So let's look at our anti-siphon, waste pipes, etc., and the fittings that's going into our building. So I'm just going to this is going to be the last detail item that I'm going to discuss. So going to our here we go, going to our estimation again. So it's item 112.25, which is our plumbing, which is basically our soil drainage that we're going to install here. And then we go to our BOQ, which kind of gives us a nice guideline on this. Geysers is usually measured as electrical water heaters, so we're not going to deal with them just yet. Okay, and then we get to taps, valves, etc. This should be included with your hand wash basins, etc., because if you go to your sanitary fittings, you would see sanitary fittings including units complete with taps, services, pipes, stopcocks, etc. So what you would do, for instance, here in your rate build-up would be okay, so what you do is you go to your sanitary plumbing, and let's just do this, and then what we're going to do is here, and then our VC would also include some other pipe work and so on that you just add up. Here. Okay, good. So let's do our taps. Just include our taps. Make it look nice. Okay, and wash basin. So the rate that we get from our BOQ is this one, and then we escalated it. Okay, there might be a couple of other items like flexi hoses and stopcocks and so on. Like I said, I'm not going to be too strict on it. The bottom line is your estimation should tally to a reasonable estimate at the end. Okay, so let's just go back to our BOQ. Okay, so we've got our sink rates, got our electrical installation, our taps. Okay, so here's for the sink mixer. Okay, so our taps are quite expensive. Okay, and then you have to make sure whether they're mixers or separate taps. So it might be that you've got a hot water, cold water tap on each side. So then you just have to make sure that you add 2 per your hand wash basin. So let's just go here, add our rate there. So it's our hand wash basins there. So we've got our item here, and then we add this together, and then you will have a rate of 3,900 if you round it up. Okay, and then you would take it over to your estimate. I don't have a hand wash basin, so let's add a hand wash basin here, and let's say we have 2 according to your drawing, and then you just bring your rate forward. Okay, so that's more or less how you do your plumbing, or your plumbing measurement. Okay, then we get to our sanitary plumbing. Now this is your plumbing that's involved with all of your installation of your items as mentioned above. So the short and long of this is to get a total cost of all of these items, your sanitary items. So let's just get all of these items added together. Okay, so these are all your valves, etc. No, I'm past the water supplies now already. Sanitary plumbing. There's all your, I'm going to leave out of floor drains because the floor drains is measured elsewhere, or you can include it if your building does have any drains. So let's just get a rate here, and our building was 170 square meters. So what you would do is you take your rate, take it to your estimation, and you would create a, okay, I'll do that now. Let's just create our new rate build up, and this is for 25, and it's for plumbing, and it is for our soil our description would be sanitary or sundry sanitary fittings. Okay, sanitary sundries. Okay, and so then you take that amount over to your, here we go, to here, and then what you can do is here you've got your historical building square meter. In our case it was 170 square meters, and you would divide that to get to a rate. Sorry, at the wrong section. So you measure it in number. So what you need to do is then go to your BOQ and you measure the amount of fittings that you've got. So you've got your hand wash basin, all of these items measured up to urinals, and we can see that we had 13 items measured, although it's some 5. Yeah, so it's 1, 2, 2, 1, so it's 5 items that we had here, and then you can calculate what the cost was from that. So it's 5 items. Let's just make this one 5 general, and you divide that then with that item. Okay, so that is your rate per unit. So let's say, for instance, we didn't have any urinals. Okay, so you can see we have our number, and it's basically the number of fittings that you had here. Okay, and then we take this rate that we build up here, okay, and we put it in here. Okay, so our new building, we had 6 items, so it's a little bit more than our previous historical building. Obviously now you can just clean up your rate build up here and use your discretion how you're going to use this. Okay, so that's more or less how it works. So you can go through that, play around with it, and if you do struggle you can ask me questions. It's nice if you do send it through. It's easier just to assist as we go along. Also remember to refer to that extra document that I sent through, that multi-purpose hall that we had. You can have a look at the examples that we had here. I actually did a estimate of what the hall should be, and here's actually quite a few nice installation rates and costs to see whether you're in the ballpark with it. So you can have a look. Here we actually had some booster pumps and solar heating, etc. that was included. So please make sure that you actually look at that guideline that I sent through also, and it will give you an indication of what should be installed and so on. So see it as an opportunity to play around with the figures. Something as a final note that I also just saw is make sure that your items tally up correctly from the previous bill. So all of your primary elements add up to the top. So here's all the primary elements. This is taken to your summary page, which is here. So here you can see all the different preliminary items that's measured, that's added up here. In this instance it was quite a large hall that was being built, and then the rates per square meter, and then these items like your preliminaries is then taken over to your summary sheet. And then the special installations, in this instance equipment wasn't included. It was deemed that the client would provide that, Same with the tenant installations, no alterations, but it was a new building. And also then the external works were also added to this, and then the preliminaries that you calculate here on your summary page. Okay, so please remember to go through your elemental guide and do your estimation based on that. If there's any special fittings or so, then you can include it there. So like I said, do not waste too much time in being 100% accurate with your rate build-ups. I'm more interested in seeing whether you actually putting the right items in your elemental estimate here, and whether you thought of everything and whether you're doing it more or less in the right place, and how your structure of it actually looks. So rather focus on that than the actual rate build-up, and the rate build-up is more or less a guide. If you do get a nice elemental estimate from a friend or someone in the industry, that might give you a nice indication of where the rate should be. So focus on getting your items in measured nicely first, and then do the rate build-ups later on to see. Then you can actually play around with the figures to see whether it actually falls within the parameters of how much this building might cost you to build. So yeah, good luck, and enjoy playing around with the figures. Yeah, then we'll talk again. All the best. Bye.